All right, let's talk about the menopausal belly fat situation. Because for the longest time, I thought my body decided to store all my memories in my midsection. Turns out it wasn't just me. I see that I'm surrounded by a lot of you that also going through the same thing. I'm going to share with you what I had to do to make the shift and to finally cut through the fat, right? Pun intended. And what I mean about figuring out what actually works, it's not about the crash diets or starving myself or anything like that. Oh, and also those crazy, long, insane workouts. That is pretty much the opposite, and I'll get to that in a minute. So let's start from the beginning. The hormone shift that no one warns you about. When the estrogen drops and we go into menopause and then post-menopause, literally we're depleted of the estrogen. And so therefore it creates the extra belly fat. So cortisol levels increase, which is a hormone, right? Based on our stress levels and losing the hormones that we really bathe in our body needs. Estrogen, which is specifically the one I'm speaking of, is estradiol, and progesterone and testosterone. So all these things are being depleted when the ovaries are starting to shut down. So when the cortisol level spikes, the belly fat just locks in. A Harvard study that I've read, it links menopause with belly fat. So in that study, it is explaining that the menopause is basically the culprit when it comes down to the visceral fat. That fat is pretty dangerous because it wraps around our other organs in the body. This visceral fat is really connected to the health risks that we are in trouble for. So we are at a higher risk, as you know, of the big three diseases, and that is osteoporosis, heart disease, and Alzheimer's. Those are the three things that we really have to be careful of, and that includes stroke. I'm a caregiver for my mom who had a stroke at 55 years old, and that's the age I am now. And so I'm really, really laser focused on figuring out the things that will put myself at risk to make sure that I'm preventing these kind of things that have happened to my mom, unfortunately. Any information that I find out and I research, and I've been doing it for years and years, that we take control of our health, and not just by doctors and what they tell us, but also to take charge and to lead the way. So what I stopped doing first. So I quit extreme dieting. I was basically cutting my calories in half. And now, as you know from my last video, I stopped counting calories. And I really start out with that high protein. You have to eat more. Really, it's not anything that I can put on the scale and say, hey, okay, I'm gonna have 1,700 calories a day. I really don't wanna count and do all that. I just decided to wrap my diet around protein. Hit the protein first, and then the sides are my vegetables and extra fat, which is a healthy fat. And I can eat 3 meals a day, but really personally, 2 meals a day is really where I sit at, and maybe a snack. That to me is like a 3-meal deal. It's just because I feel full. So if you're being mindful of what you eat and be intuitive about what you're putting in your body knows, and it will tell you that you had enough and that you're full, and you'll feel satiated with the extra high protein. So eat as you feel hungry. Feeling hungry more than you think you should, then maybe it's a hydration issue and you need to drink more water. That's it. So I cut out all that high intensity workout. So I used to run. I still jog a little bit, but I do that in intervals, running maybe 1 minute at a time, and then I'm walking in between for a few minutes, and then I hit another interval. So I don't really run like I used to. I did it for 20 years, and I used to run 5 to 6 miles a day and pounding hard. And that is just, that was great when I was in my 20s and 30s. But now you really have to look at your cortisol levels are already extremely high by doing low impact type of exercises and that are strength building and they can be just utilizing your own body weight. You don't have to necessarily use weights if you don't want to. Either way, you can utilize these type of exercises just so that you continue to move. And movement is everything, and movement is life. I stopped overloading my schedule that was causing the extra stress as well. Again, focusing on how do I lower my cortisol levels, which is AKA high stress. So if you're in a high stress job like I was, I had to leave it. And being a full-time caregiver is more difficult than I've ever had at any job that I've taken throughout my career. If you can find a way to either take a lower stress position, or maybe it's just cutting back the hours that you're actually working in that job. And even if you're working from home, it can still be high stress, right? When you have a lot of pressure on you and a lot of responsibilities depending on the type of job you're in. Reevaluate. Look at what is most meaningful to you. So I stopped overloading my schedule and I learned to say no. Stress and exhaustion, those two things are lethal, and that equals more cravings. This is what makes us eat more and then add on the extra weight is cravings. If we didn't have all these extra cravings like for sugar or for carbs, and there's nothing wrong with carbs if you're doing complex carbs, but if you are craving these things, it's either you're stressed or you're bored. Nutrition tweaks that actually worked for me. Again, protein with every meal. Keep that as the focus to lead with, and that will help satiate you and get you to the next meal, whether it's in 3 or 4 hours or whether it's 6 hours down the way. It will get you through that time because you're eating the proper amount of protein. Also, protein keeps you strong and builds up the bone, right? Because osteoporosis is an issue. And I had to cut down on the sugar. I mean, sugars is what was killing me with the belly fat. Sugar feeds diseases like cancer. And if you look at it that way and say, hey, this is life and death. If I cut back on the sweets, I would kind of compromise that with adding in some fruit, which is a natural sugar. So no, I didn't quit the carbs. I just stopped overdoing it, saying, hey, I'm going to cut back on processed foods. 9 times out of 10, you're already hitting those carbs and cutting that back. Also, in exchange, the belly fat was coming down, and I can notice the difference. Studies show that higher protein plus the fiber equals reduces belly fat in menopausal women. Period. Pretty simple. Less punishment, more strategy. So I mentioned already about not pounding and doing more low impact exercise. And so with the strengthening type of or resistant training, I was religious about doing at least 3 times a week. I may pump it up to 4 times a week, but 3 times a week was my minimum. I would recommend anyone that doesn't work out regularly and this is something new to you, then to start with twice a week. I do Pilates as well and different type of movement classes that help me with resistance training. Big on walking every day because it doesn't feel like exercise to me. Dancing, stretching classes. See, these are things that is about movement. And if you're doing something that you love to do, find it. Find something that you love to do that gives you movement and that you can do for at least 20 minutes a day. It's proven resistance training will reduce that abdominal fat, even without major weight loss. I wasn't losing a lot of pounds, but what I noticed is the more muscle I was gaining, cutting the percentage of fat, that was showing really a big difference in what my waistline looked like, and I fit my clothes better. When it comes to the cortisol levels as well, have to sleep. Sleep is number one with lowering the cortisol levels. I've been doing different things with my mom because I usually get up at night and I'm very, for a long time, very sleep deprived. So that was a huge reason why I couldn't get rid of the fat. So I'm shooting for 7 hours of sleep because before that I was getting 5 to 6. The belly fat was going to be prominent. It was going to be very obvious. I go to a biofeedback class at the VA. Yeah, I'm a veteran, so this is a way to deal with stress management, and you're just hooked up with your fingers to this monitor, you learn how to visualize and meditate a lot better. And it really showed me how to breathe better. And if you really add that in, even if it's 5 minutes a day, what a difference in calming down, especially if you're in a high stress situation at that time. Take the time to just stop and do a 5-minute meditation. My 2 apps that I really like to use regularly, and Abide especially, I use every night. So, and it's great to just do a 2-3 minute type of short meditations that will really help you. In the gut, we hold our emotions. If you really need help and you need a tool to help you with detoxing that gut health, that's where I use Ars Coso drink. And Ars Coso is a game changer for me because sometimes I just try to do a water fast. And when I utilize Ars Coso, that takes away those extra cravings that come up when you're doing an extended fast. I would really check that out. I do have a special code in the description box, so to give you a 15% discount. So try it out. It's something that can help springboard you, because detoxing will get rid of the belly fat, but it can come back if you are returning to the same habits that you were doing. And I know that because that's what I was doing. I was going back to a vicious cycle or returning to a high stress situation and not handling it a way that's different from what I did in the past. All those things I had to regroup and reevaluate what I was doing in my life. So if you prioritize the sleep to 7 to 8 hours, if you can shoot for that, that would help balance out the hormones, but also it will help better your metabolism, and so that will speed things up. So the longer you sleep, you will notice that you are flattening out your tummy because you're in a fasted state. The longer you're fasting in the morning, the better. And the intermittent fasting shows you that you will not only help yourself with the tummy part, but also it helped with metabolism speeding back up because you're lowering the stress. Midlife is not a prison sentence to having weight gain. So if you have any questions or if you want to work with my guide, please do check it out also in the link. And let me know in the comments, what is your biggest struggle with midlife weight? And are you having the same issues in the belly area? And what are you doing differently? We don't have to live with the belly fat for the rest of our life. We just need to pivot and to adjust some of the things that we're doing. It makes a huge impact if you look at it that way, and just be consistent. Thanks so much for watching, guys. And always remember, you can begin again. Talk to you later.